This video is for you if you are ambitious but lazy. Just because you see other entrepreneurs grinding 16 hours a day but you're not, don't think there's anything wrong with you. Now, don't get me wrong, I've always been a hard worker. I've worked 2 full-time jobs while in school full-time. I moved away from my family when I was 16, and I learned the value of work ethic early. But honestly, outside of my work and goals, I just like to chill. I can lay down and watch a TV show all night or put on a movie for hours when I'm tired. And yet I've still managed to become a millionaire by the time I turned 20. I'm convinced that this strategic approach to work has helped me build businesses that have generated millions. Today, I'm sharing the exact framework that lets ambitious but lazy people win. I want every young person who feels guilty for not wanting to grind all day, every single day, know that there's another way. And if you're someone from humble beginnings like me, this might be exactly what you need to hear. But first, I want to reframe something. When I say lazy, I don't mean you don't do anything or you avoid work when it's needed. By lazy, I mean being strategic with your resources and being deliberate and smart at how you invest them. This means only focusing on what you need to and not overworking yourself because you think that's what you're supposed to do. As I mentioned before, I've always been a hard worker. I actually stuck out for my work ethic at a young age. I worked 2 full-time jobs as a nanny while in college full-time, and I moved away from my family when I was 16. And here's what I realized. Your brain naturally wants to conserve energy for what matters most. When you're fighting that instinct, you're fighting against your own intelligence. Some of the most successful people that I know are naturally selective about where they spend their energy. They just don't advertise it because it's not as inspiring as hustle culture. When I decided to leave college after my first semester, that could have been seen as lazy. I think a lot of people didn't understand that decision. When I first told my mom, she was nervous about what that meant for me, but I've always been blessed to be surrounded by such a big support system. Of course, I'm not against the traditional university system. I think it can be great when it gives you the skills that you need for a specific career. But I personally dropped out of college because I realized that I was learning from professors who were reading out of textbooks, not entrepreneurs who had owned their own businesses. Meanwhile, I got a job with a billionaire family, and while I recognized that you could get an amazing education by going through traditional schooling, I also saw that you could learn from people who built businesses firsthand. And that's the path that I took. I didn't drop out because of laziness. I dropped out because I was worried that I would spend 4 years on something that wouldn't progress me towards where I actually wanted to go. The biggest reason was that I'd be spending 4 years just to prove to someone that I was qualified when I could get the same qualifications outside of a university and probably in less time. I like to work smarter, not harder. That one decision to focus my energy saved me 4 years. The same year that I would have been graduating college, I had already built a 7-figure short-term rental business, an 8-figure coaching business, and started my modest clothing company. So what if your laziness is actually strategic resource management? I used to feel guilty about not wanting to try every networking event or try every business opportunity that came my way. Growing up with limited resources, I thought I had to say yes to everything, just in case, you know? But I learned that successful people are incredibly selective about what they say yes to, and that selectiveness can look like laziness to people who haven't figured it out yet. When you are working full-time and trying to build something on the side, you don't have the energy to be spending on things that don't move you forward. When I started being strategic and saying no to the things that didn't contribute to my goals, I had more energy to focus on the things that could actually change my life. Your instinct to avoid busy work is not a character flaw. It's your brain trying to protect your most valuable resource. But here's what most people get wrong about leverage, and this is the part that actually helped me build wealth. The biggest shift in my thinking came when I realized that successful people don't work harder, they work smarter. One example of this would be using other people's money. When you don't have money, using other people's money feels out of reach. I get it. When I was 18 with no money, I thought that you needed your own money to make money. When I first started my Airbnb business, I used my personal savings and personal credit. The startup cost was between $10,000 and $12,000, which is a lot when your salary job pays you less than $50,000 a year. But here's the thing. That property made me over $50,000 in my first year of having it. So the risk of using my savings and my personal credit was actually worth it. Most people think that starting a business like this isn't possible for them unless they have the money saved. But did you know that most banks are actually willing to give money to small businesses as long as you have a good personal credit score and a real company, even if it's on a small scale? In my program, one of the biggest things that we help people do is get funding to start their own short-term rental businesses. This helps my students start and scale without being limited by their personal savings. You don't need to have money to make money. You need a proven, repeatable system that makes money. When I was young, we didn't really have money for help, so that's been something that's been really new to me. Learning to let go of control control and allow other people to step in has been something that I've had to learn as an entrepreneur. This has created such a big impact in my life because it's allowed me to focus on the things that I actually need to. I've had to learn to not try to do everything myself like I've always done because of the way that I grew up. I've always had the mindset that I don't want to let myself down, I want to change my situation, I want a different pattern, and I also know that I can only control me. So I was always focused on doing everything myself. But in business, that doesn't always work because you don't have enough time in the day. The breakthrough came when I started hiring for my businesses. I've been able to bring in so much of my family, which gives them flexibility and opportunity, and it gives me more time to focus on the biggest revenue-driving aspects of the business. Hiring help has been amazing. It's also been challenging, but I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have it. There's only so much that we can do on our own. Although it does get very challenging at times, communicating and balancing personal relationships and work relationships, I do truly believe that it's been such a beautiful thing for me and my family to have the blessing of working together. It's given us all opportunities that we didn't have before. I've learned that when you bring people in, they can focus on what they're good at, you can focus on what you're good at. It's been amazing seeing everyone grow in the areas that they're skilled in. It's a reminder that I can't do everything on my own. For example, I couldn't be the face of the business handling all the marketing while also handling all of the sales, the customer support, the project management, the learning, etc. Most people need help, and it does not make you lazy, it makes you smart. And speaking of not doing everything yourself, this is what actually freed up my time. I've created systems that work without me. In my Airbnb business, I have almost everything automated, from guest messaging to cleaning schedules, even pricing. I put so many automations in place so that the business can still run smoothly even if I'm traveling or focusing on other projects. Actually, all my properties in my portfolio are in different states and cities than I currently live in. I wouldn't be able to run these businesses remotely without the automations that I have. There literally isn't enough time in the day, so why do it when systems can do it for you? This is what allowed me to build a $150,000 a month business while putting in just a couple of hours per day. If you are someone who already makes good money and you're successful, but you're looking to make passive income and you want to get into real estate or short-term rentals, I will personally teach you how to start. I'll put the link to my free live class in the description. But here's what I want you to understand. The goal is not to automate everything in your life overnight. The goal is to automate the things that you need to so that you can focus your mental energy on the things that matter most. Most people waste mental energy on routine decisions like, what should I eat today? What should I wear today? When should I respond to emails? If you are spending mental energy on all these things daily, you have less energy to spend on the things that actually move the needle. The strategic approach is to do the hard work of building systems and then let the systems do the work for you. When you automate routine tasks, what looks like laziness is actually the highest form of productivity. But all the systems in the world won't help you if you're still trying to do too many things at once. This might be the most important section for anyone who feels overwhelmed by all the things that they should be doing. The biggest trap that I see people fall into when they start a new business is trying to do everything at once. New business ideas, new purchases, new commitments. It's overwhelming and it dilutes your focus. Every dollar that you spend on things you don't need is a dollar you could have invested on what's already working. This approach isn't about depriving yourself, it's about being selective. When you are trying to build wealth, you need to resist the urge of spreading your resources too thin across too many areas. Be comfortable with saying no as your default answer. Learning to say no is honestly one of the hardest things for me. Coming from where I come from, I thought I had to be grateful for every opportunity, even if it didn't align with my goals. But I learned that every yes to something unimportant is a no to something that could be life-changing. Being strategic about social obligations and non-essential activities gave me more time to prioritize the relationships and projects that actually mattered. The most successful people I know are incredibly good at saying no. That discipline looks like antisocial behavior for people who haven't figured out their priorities yet. When no is your default, your focus gets amplified. When I dropped out of college and eliminated the distraction of trying to balance school with building a business, my results accelerated dramatically. Having fewer options forced me to go deeper into the things that were working rather than constantly jumping to new opportunities. Sometimes the most productive thing that you can do is eliminate productive activities that aren't the most important productive activities. When you have limited energy, be strategic about where you use it. This amplifies your focus because you don't waste time on things that don't contribute to your goals. And I'm not going to pretend that this is some magic formula that works overnight. Some days you'll still struggle with motivation and that's completely normal. Even as an entrepreneur, there are days where you aren't going to feel motivated and you aren't going to feel like doing it, but you still have to show up regardless. As an entrepreneur, you don't have a boss telling you what to do and when to do it. It's all up to you and the amount of dedication that you have. So even when you don't feel like it, you still need to do it. That's why I suggest, instead of changing your personality and trying to be someone you're not, start by changing your environment and systems. I learned that relying on motivation and willpower is exhausting, but relying on systems that actually work is sustainable. Start with one area that you can automate or systemize that currently requires your daily decision making. Maybe it's setting up an automatic savings or creating a simple routine for the first hour of your day. The key is making the right choices so easy that choosing them becomes the path of least resistance. Something practical that you can do this week is pay attention to the activities that cause you to feel energized versus the ones that make you feel exhausted. I know when you're working full-time and trying to build something on the side, everything can feel draining. But there are probably some activities that drain you more than others, and those are good candidates for automation, elimination, or delegation. Every decision that you make is either an investment or an expense. Investments generate returns over time. Expenses cost you resources. I learned to ask myself, is this activity going to pay me dividends later? Or am I just burning energy for temporary results? The most sustainable success that I've seen is being strategic in the right ways and selective about where you spend your energy. Building systems, relationships, and assets does require more energy up front, but it requires less energy over time. The biggest thing I want you to take away from this is being ambitious but strategic is not a character flaw. It's actually an advantage if you know how to use it. And honestly, I think the world needs more people who are strategic with their energy instead of burning themselves out trying to prove that they're working hard enough. Maybe that's automating a routine task, finding someone who's better than you at something that you struggle with, or simply saying no to one commitment that doesn't serve your goals. If you want more specific strategies around building systems, leveraging assets, or building wealth, like, comment, and subscribe. I just want every ambitious person who feels guilty about not having enough mental capacity or about having too much on their plate to know that there's another way. I was able to create success in my early 20s by being strategic with my time and energy. I promise you can create whatever you're dreaming of by working with your nature instead of against it.